Well, by the end of next week, we'll be just a month out from Election Day. And if you're not registered to vote, guess what? Now is the time. You need to be registered. You need to register to vote. You need to vote. But given the state of our nation, we have to do more than vote, because an election will not solve what ails this nation. Might make it worse, but it's not going to solve it. We need to pray, because America needs a spiritual renewal that only God can provide. And that's just one of the themes that we're going to address next week at the Pray Vote Stand Summit in Washington, D.C. And I hope you'll join us, because this is a time we need to come together to pray for our nation, to understand what is at stake and what we need to do. Join me now to discuss this is Katy Faust, one of the speakers at the next Pray Vote Stand Summit. She's the founder of Them Before Us and the author of Them Before Us, Why We Need a Global Children's Rights Movement. Katy, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to see you.
Always good to be with you, Tony, and I'm always so grateful that you take an unflinching stand on behalf of biblical truth and biblical values in the public square, and that intersects well with our work at Them Before Us, because the biblical worldview, especially when you take it into areas of politics and voting, is always going to be pro-child, and that is what we focus on at Them Before Us, is child defense. So I'm very grateful that you are always on the right side of children.
Well, thank you. And I would say the same for you. There was just a few of our voices out there recently talking about the life issue. You were one, Lila Rose was another one, unflinching in your stand. Because when you're standing on biblical truth, you don't question where you are, regardless of where others may be.
That's right. We're not putting our finger in the wind and seeing what's politically popular. We're not trying to even determine whether or not we're going to win on the issue, and then that will determine our stance, or that will determine our words. No, we stand on behalf of the most vulnerable, because that is what Christians are biblically charged with. We are charged to especially defend the fatherless and put practices in place that guard their life, guard their family, guard their minds, guard their bodies. And that's what I'm going to be talking about at Pray Vote Stand. Why is it that we as Christians need to take a child protective stance and look at all of these political issues through the lens of upholding the least of these? It is absolutely fundamentally unchristian if we fail to do so.
Katy, these issues are being wrestled with in the political square, if you will, the public square, but they're not political at their core, they're spiritual. And, and as I said in the open here, while I encourage everyone to vote, I would never, ever discourage people from voting. I'm going to tell them the truth, but I want to encourage them to vote. But the truth is, an election's not going to save us. We need a spiritual awakening, a renewal in this country.
Yeah, because politics, as you recognize and speak of so often, is a symptom of what's really going on in our world today. We are seeing the manifestation of the bad ideas, as you just highlighted in your video, ideas that get the nature of humans wrong. The world doesn't know how to properly answer the question, what does it mean to be human? And you cannot answer the question, how do we approach children, protect children, defend children, if you can't even get humanity right? And honestly, those of us that adhere to a biblical worldview are the only ones that can properly answer the question, what does it mean to be human? If you can't answer those questions correctly, you can't get the beginning of life right or the end of life right. You won't get male right or female right. You won't get marriage right. You won't get gender right. So it is us, Christians, that need to take our biblically informed opinion and then apply it to issues that look political, but ultimately, like you said, are spiritual.
Right. Share with our viewers and our listeners how you've benefited from previous summits. You've been there multiple times. How have you personally benefited from being there?
Well, I think all of us understand what it feels like to have the leftist tactic of isolation leveraged on us. It is very hard to feel like you can stand strong if you feel like you're standing alone. And the nice thing about Pray Vote Stand is it's very clear that you're not alone. Not only are you standing shoulder to shoulder with other people, but you're standing shoulder to shoulder with such good people. People that are in whatever sphere of influence they have. Maybe it's just their family, or maybe it's their church, or maybe it's a platform, or maybe it's an organization, are fighting to advance these critical ideals regardless of whether or not they are hated or loved for it. And for me, that is encouraging. It gives me courage as it puts courage into me. And then also, of course, hearing from all of the speakers who are creating the resistance to the decline of our culture, but then also creating what some have called the parallel polis, the alternative structures, right? Maybe we can't retake these institutions that have been captured, but we can create new institutions. And we can fortify existing institutions that have not yet fallen. So I just find that both the people and the content is so incredibly encouraging. And I would really encourage you, if you haven't registered, to get on in.
It's like a huddle. It's like a group hug. You do leave encouraged, but you leave with instructions and understanding of better how to live out your faith in a world that has become hostile to truth and to faith. And of course, Katy, you're always a great part of that. You've always had a great message, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say this year as well. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Really good to be with you, and I will see you next month.
All right, keep standing, all right? Katy Faust, she's really a warrior.